Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Leadership in Play. A big thank you to all of those who watched the first episode, especially those of you who wrote me directly. I really appreciate your kind words. They mean a lot to me, so thank you very, very much. In the first episode, we discussed how I moved the focus of my research from studying organizational leaders to leadership as a process of organizing. In this episode, we're going to take a closer look at the terms I needed to use to further explore the social space of leadership. So in order to do that, I'm going to share with you an edited clip from a webinar presentation that I gave to the Northwood University Alumni Association. Shout out to all the Northwood alums out there. Thank you so much for allowing me the space to be able to share with you my research. I really appreciated the time that we had there. I'm not going to lie to you, this is going to be a little academic-y. The good news is these terms are really easy for you to grasp, so get your popcorn ready. Here we go. Let's get into it. My dissertation chair was Dr. Martin Leahy. He is an awesome human being. I owe him so much. I took relational leadership to him and started talking with him a little bit more directly about what could I do with this. And he directed me to Dr. Adele Clark. Who is an expert in situational analysis, specifically with grounded theory research, which is a qualitative approach. And so she encourages researchers through her work to embrace the social space. And you can see in a quote from her 2005 work that the conditional elements of the situation need to be specified in the analysis of the situation because they are it. So instead of looking at behaviors, which I was used to, and there's nothing wrong with studying behaviors, there's a lot to be gained from that. But I was struggling to figure out, like, if we have leaders who are behaving badly, not all of them, but we do have some notable ones that we have to watch out for from time to time in the data, then suddenly I need to look at something like what's going on in the situation that's either causing these bad behaviors or just causing confusion across the board. She was telling me you need to embrace the actual situation and the elements of those situations. And so that opened up a whole world for me in terms of terms that I could start to use now that are not just people-oriented, even though they're still important. You can see that on the screen. We're still talking about people and their behaviors. We're talking about the space in which they operate. I know this resonates with you because we all went through the pandemic. Some of us had to switch to the online space. That did something to our dialogue. It did something to our time. It did something to our money in some cases, or the resources we had or didn't have. We had to change our history of work, which ultimately impacted our culture. And there were pockets of silence. You know this because you've got people who turn their camera off during a meeting and you're like, what is going on with them? I can't see them. You can't access them in that space. And so suddenly now these situational elements were just rich dialogue for us to figure out, like, what is going on here in the social space and how does that equal leadership occurring? This idea of how do we make productive decisions? How do we net success in our interactions with one another? And so that led me to find Dr. Wilfred Drath. He is out of the Center for Creative Leadership, which does great content. Highly recommend you check them out. But he wrote an excellent book called Deep Blue Sea, Rethinking the Source of Leadership. It is hands down one of my favorite books. He talked about this principle called relational dialogic principle. People sharing work create leadership by constructing the meaning of direction, commitment, and adaptive challenge. That direction, commitment, and adaptive challenge, that piece, those three things, he refers to them as leadership tasks. Very interesting. Like, I have tasks that I have to do now to advance this dialogue. So suddenly now I had my framework. I had relational leadership, which is a social process over the hierarchical role. That's just the focus of the study. Situatedness, which is the situation as the unit of analysis over the individual knows best. So instead of interviewing individuals, let's look at a situation instead. And then dialogue. How do we construct the meaning of success? Like this idea of successfully completed work, as opposed to somebody imposing that meaning from their role. How do we understand how that comes to be? And so, not to appease the academic gods, here is the research question that came to be. I'll just point you to some aspects of it. How do situational elements relate in leadership being constructed in the talk among individuals completing work? Very simple. All those other things are just me showing off. One of my favorite people on this planet is Dr. Julie Benish. She's a great author, and also she was on my committee as well at the Chicago School. She told me, hey Noah, it's not so fast. You've got to do one more thing before you can continue down this path. And that was, we have to add some context to this as well. And so she recommended to me Dr. Pepper's work, World Hypothesis. This book was produced during World War II. So the language is a little different than it is today. We need to dive just a little bit deeper, and so this is what it looks like. It looks a little scary. It's totally easy. I'll show it to you right now. I'll walk you through it. Anything that happens to you in the workplace, it's either a change of something that was, or it's something that's brand new. It's one of those two things. Either it's a change in something that was, or it's something that's brand new that we've never done before. The other piece is the quality aspect of this. Quality being spread. The spread of decision inputs that we have. If you hear in meetings, people are throwing all sorts of ideas in. How do those ideas evolve in our dialogue to add to the quality of it? And then you've got fusion. How do they fuse or connect to each other so that way we know we're about to make a successful decision, or at least complete the act of making a decision. And then texture, it's just the details. That's all it is. So are you looking at the different strands of dialogue that are produced? You got that coworker that starts talking, and then another coworker jumps in and joins them, and another coworker who disagrees with them, and then suddenly we've got this going on, and then we got a new topic that comes up. Maybe it's the coworker that's bringing us back to the past. Who knows? And then context. What's going on around us as we're making those decisions. And so references, easy. Everything that comes out of your mouth. What are you referencing in the conversation? Linear is my favorite one. This is that coworker who loves their idea so much and they can't let it go. They just keep bringing it up over and over and over again. I've even been that person, so I'll fall on my own sword. Convergent. When you see two coworkers connect on an idea and you're like, oh, suddenly they're syncing up and you can see something starting to happen, which is a wonderful thing for managers to see. Blocked, when somebody says nope, and there could be good blocking and bad blocking, so we just have to keep that in mind. And then there's those instrumental acts that happen where we either get a resource out of nowhere that helps us, or somebody says something that shifts the dialogue to where it needs to be. A lot of our graduate students experience this at the DeVos Graduate School, where somebody will say something and it just shifts the dialogue into a completely more productive place to be. And those are always fun moments to have, or maybe a couple of students come together and figure that out and talk. So we needed these things to be able to code what good productive dialogue looks like. See, that wasn't so hard now, was it? Now that I had these new terms, I needed a way to observe a leadership dialogue being constructed in real time. But what method would yield the best results?